Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. My name is TS Sudhir, and I can tell you that this is going to be an important video because in this video, I'm going to be discussing the ISC Class 11 specimen paper for English literature. I found the question paper a bit tricky. And why am I calling it tricky is because the kind of vocabulary itself that has been used in the questions makes you think that the examiner would expect a certain level of English language from students of ISC class 11, and I suspect that would pretty much be the case even for students of class 12 in the 2024 board examinations in February, March this year. In fact, in February for English literature. So, I've written the entire set of answers, and I'm sure most of you would have seen the specimen paper by now because it's been some time since they sent across the specimen paper to different school teachers. Now, before I start, I want to tell you, because I also spoke about the level of English. अगर आप काफी साधारण इंग्लिश में अपने आंसर्स लिखेंगे तो मुझे नहीं लगता है कि एग्जामिनर उससे ज्यादा इंप्रेस होगा या होगी. Okay, so two things out here before I start. Okay, one, of course, for students who are not comfortable with writing quality essays for ISC level, even though this book is meant for ICSC class 9 and 10 as the cover says, अगर आपकी तैयारी पूरी तरह से नहीं हुई है, you can actually buy this book because you will find this useful in order to understand what should be the format of answers, the essays written. Go to studywithsudhir.com or on the app and you can order the book. The book will be delivered most likely within 7 working days. Okay, that's number one. English language के grammar portion के लिए I have started a percentage booster course because students wanted it. Okay, we had the first live class last Sunday on the 17th of December, and we will continue this till your exams. So that is something which ISC class 11 and 12 students could look at. It's a crash course looking specifically at the grammar portion. Okay, now let's get started with the ISC class 11 specimen paper. Specimen paper पहले देखते हैं. Okay, so you can see the paper on your screen, the English literature. This is a specimen paper. Now, as you know, the usual drill, the time allowed is 3 hours, 80 marks question paper, the 15 minutes that you get before that. Now, understand the format of the question paper. There is a section A and there is a section B. And that's what is the section A is the MCQs. Then you have the reasoning questions, and then you have the long format questions. So let's go through the MCQs first. Doubtful it stood as two spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art. What does the captain, if you see in each of the questions, they have put what kind of a question this is. Now, this may not obviously be there in the final question paper, but it is to give your teachers an idea कि किस तरह का question paper उनको set करना चाहिए. Okay, what does the captain refer to through the face doubtful it stood in Act 1, Scene 2 of Macbeth? The weather was doubtful. The outcome of the battle was doubtful. Macbeth was a doubtful character. The way the swimmers were standing was doubtful. What is it? Is it A, B, C, or D? So the correct answer is B. Okay. Because the outcome कौन जीतेगा उसके बारे में गारंटी नहीं थी. Which aspect of fortune is being, now this is a tricky question, which aspect of fortune is being traditionally personified when it is called a rebel's whore in Act 1, Scene 2 of the play Macbeth? Now this is something which relates to your understanding. I'm sorry, I've been having, ever since I came back from Vizag, I've been having a cold, cough, fever, headache, body ache. So पूरा recover नहीं हुआ, COVID भी चल रहा है अभी. So if I cough, please excuse. Fickleness, vanity, beauty, femininity. The correct answer is fickleness. Fickleness का मतलब, who keeps changing his or her mind, because both fate, fortune is relating to fate, and prostitutes are known to be inconsistent in their approach. Banco, all is well. I dreamt last night of the three beard sisters to say they have showed some truth. What truth is being referred to? Please remember, you will take a lot of time in reading all these questions. So your time management skills have to be perfect. Okay. काफी कुछ लिखने को होगा. The good thing is that now they have imposed a word limit. Otherwise, आपके जो seniors होते थे, they would write lots and lots, 2-3 पेज लिख के आते थे. अभी आपको 150 वर्ड 5 मार्क के क्वेश्चंस के लिए या 250 वर्ड मैक्सिमम आपको लिखना है फॉर अ 10 मार्क क्वेश्चन. So that way you can be very precise and targeted in your approach, which is a good thing. So the third question, what truth is being referred to by Banco in Act 2, Scene 1, before the dagger scene of Macbeth? Macbeth has become the king. No, he has not become the king. Banco's sons have been given special positions. No, that's not true. Macbeth has been made the Thane of Cawdor. Yes, that has happened. And Macbeth has got Sweno's title. So the correct one is he has been made the Thane of Cawdor. Lady Macbeth plans to pour her spirits in Macbeth's ears and chastise him with the valor of her tongue. What does this suggest about her role in their relationship? She is the driving force behind the plot to kill Duncan. She's a dutiful wife who only thinks of her husband's well-being. Yes, she's a dutiful wife. She does think of her this thing. But when you're talking about something as aggressive as pour her spirits in Macbeth's ears, which means, there is a certain level of aggression which is conveyed by this word driving force. Okay. So the correct option is fourth A. Fifth one. Which one of the, so 4 questions of Macbeth you will get. Which one of the following statements best expresses the theme of the short story? Thank you, ma'am. A, B, C, D. Padho jara. The correct answer here is lessons of life. So this is an analysis related question. That lessons of life are best imbibed, they're taught with, because that's what the lady does to Roger, Mrs. Jones. Read the 2 statements from the short story A Living God and choose the correct option from the ones that follow. It includes both analysis and then you have to reason it out. You need to think analytically. So read the 2 statements and then look at the 4 options. What do you think it is? I'm going to give you time. So as the quaking ceased, and इसमें मैं आपको एक बात बता देता हूं, please read your text multiple number of times. I know grammatizer और paper menagerie and even to an extent a living God काफी लंबे chapters है. टाइम लगेगा, लेकिन जितनी बारी और जितना ध्यान से आप उस चैप्टर को पढ़ेंगे, that much better will, because these sentences are taken directly from the chapter. So only if you are familiar with all the sentences that you will find it easy to deal with these kind of reasoning questions. As the quaking ceased, Hamaguchi's keen old eyes were anxiously turned towards the village because he's seeing from that position. Thus it chanced that Hamaguchi became aware of something unusual in the offing. So statement 1 is the reason for statement 2. So sixth ka, the correct option is B. Mark Twain uses his essay Advice to Youth as a critique of conformity demanded by adults, youngsters, small children, or youngsters and small children. The correct answers is 7th A. Sorry, have I made a mistake? Yeah, correct. Yeah, 7th A. What does the line love is not love which alters when it alteration finds from sonnet 116 suggest about love? Love is conditional and alterable. No, love is steadfast. So the correct option is B, 8th B. Love is steadfast. What is the underlying theme of the poem Abhisara, the Tryst? Compassion, brotherhood, equanimity, and mindfulness. The correct answer is compassion. The last one, which one of the following is not correct about the terminally ill patient wearing a lime green gown in the poem Why I Like the Hospital? This is an understanding related. So यहाँ पर आपको नॉट पर ध्यान देना है. इसमें से 3 ऑप्शंस हैं जो कि सही है, एक ऑप्शन है जो कि गलत है. तो which of the 3 is correct? तो यहाँ पर अगर यहाँ पर भी नॉट होगा तो don't get confused. You have to think logically. So इसमें correct answer is A. He was not pretending to be strong. So that is not true. Okay. Now, I want you to just see there are 10 reasoning questions, and thereafter you get the section B questions. Now here how you have to do is that the two 5-mark questions are compulsory. Then between the two 10-mark questions, you can attempt one of them. Okay. So that's how it works. So these are the first 4 questions for Macbeth. Then you have from Prism. Similarly, 5 marks, 5 marks. So you have of 2 different stories. One is thank you, ma'am. One is advice to youth. Then there is the paper menagerie, and then there is the dramatizer question. You can attempt one of the 2. Both are evaluation related questions. Similarly, Rhapsody, 5 mark 2 questions, and then 10 mark, you have to attempt either of them. So what I've done is I've written the entire answers, okay, separately in the PDF. So let me open that one, and then we will go through that so that you have an idea about how this question paper actually looks. What I could do is to share this question paper on our WhatsApp group, Study with Sudhir. You can probably take it from there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now you are seeing the entire PDF, the way I've written the reasoning questions. You need to complete the entire sentence by providing a reason for each one is brief. You do not need to write the question. You can just write after because. Okay. And I've written all the questions, so you'll find it quite easy to deal with this. In Act 1, Scene 1 of the play Macbeth, the heath is an appropriate place for the witches to meet because, why? Because the heath symbolizes a desolate setting reflecting the eerie. Please try to use these kind of words, which is why I've taken the effort of writing each one of them. And of course, on the course also, I've given you lots of such reasoning questions. Okay. The eerie ka matlab, there is something very sinister about it. There is also the supernatural, because these are not normal, they're not human beings, right? And they are making a prophecy. So it is a desolate matlab wahan par koi nahi hai. It's an isolated kind of a place. It's a setting, right? Reflecting the eerie and the supernatural nature of their prophetic activities in the play, right? In Act 1, Scene 4 of the play Macbeth, Duncan's words, he was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust, are ironic because Duncan is expressing trust, ये यहाँ पे मैंने गलत लिख दिया, trust about the Thane of Cawdor. The Thane of Cawdor. वो Thane of Cawdor की बात कर रहा है, not Macbeth. Unaware that Macbeth is already contemplating treacherous actions, including thoughts of regicide. Regicide मालूम है ना? Means to kill the king. So यहाँ पे Thane of Cawdor होगा. In Act 1, Scene 3 of the play Macbeth, Macbeth thinks that supernatural soliciting could not be ill because it comes with the promise of a positive outcome. That is the prospect of him becoming King of Scotland, and that appeals to his ambitious nature because he's very ambitious. He wants to become the king. So he feels that Macbeth thinks that, that what they have said cannot be wrong, cannot be something which is evil, because they are saying things which he wants to hear, right? Lady Macbeth was unable to kill Duncan herself because she believed that Duncan's resemblance to her father would make the act too emotionally distressing, difficult for her to undertake. In the short story, A Living God, the coastline had broadened. Now, again, this is the coastline had broadened is a line which is there in the book. So, unless अगर आप टेक्स्ट को ज्यादा से ज्यादा बार नहीं पढ़ेंगे, आपको याद नहीं रहेगा. The sea was returning in the form of a tsunami, towering like a cliff. तो अगर आप इसमें एक कीवर्ड इस तरह से भी यूज करेंगे, even better. Okay, and coursing more swiftly than the kite flies. I've actually taken the exact words from the text itself. Makes it that much better. In the essay Advice to Youth, Mark Twain says that it is best to target the very young for instructions because it is in one's tender early years that such things will best take root and be most enduring and most valuable. Again, this is directly from the text. The reasoning questions आपको सबसे ज्यादा बारी टेक्स्ट से डायरेक्टली मिलेंगे. तो अगर आप टेक्स्ट को पढ़ लेंगे, ये 10 मार्क आपके पॉकेट में होंगे. So that is the approach you need to have. In the short story, The Paper Menagerie, the Jack's mother left him a box to be opened during the festival of Queen Ming because that's a festival when the spirits of the departed are allowed to visit their families. That's a festival that when he finally gets to read the letter or get the letter read by someone. And therefore, Jack would make the parts of his mother that she has left behind come alive. Okay. Again, taken words taken from the text itself. In the poem Abhisara the Tris, Vasav Datta was hurriedly driven away from the town because the folks in the town wanted to avoid the poisonous contagion, quote keywords, as she was struck with the black pestilence and her body was spotted with sores of smallpox. In the poem Why I Like the Hospital, the speaker was slouching along the garage because he was weary and tired while entering the hospital. In Shakespeare's Sonnet 116, the poet calls love the star to every wandering bark because he wants to metaphorically convey that love is a guiding and constant light that provides direction and stability to those who navigate the unpredictable journey of life, similar to how a star guides ships on the sea. So, जहां पर भी जरूरत हो देयर आर सम रीजनिंग क्वेश्चन जहां पे आपको छोटा लिखने की जरूरत हो समटाइम्स यू नीड टू फ्लैश इट आउट बट एंश्योर दैट यू राइट इट इन वन लाइन डोंट ब्रेक द सेंटेंसेस इट हैज टू बी इन जस्ट वन लाइन सो जहां पर भी जरूरत हो यू नीड टू कंटिन्यू इट अकॉर्डिंगली ओके आई होप द रीजनिंग क्वेश्चंस नॉट वेरी डिफिकल्ट एक्चुअली pretty straightforward. Now let's come to the four questions of Macbeth, the two 5-mark questions and the two 10-mark questions. So look at the question carefully, referring closely to the words of the sergeant and Ross in Act 1, Scene 2. Show how Macbeth is presented as a brave and mighty figure. In your answer, you should incorporate the following details and answer within 100 to 150 words. Emphasize the language and description used to create the image of bravery. How has he done that? Shakespeare. And mention Duncan's responses and their effect. So how do you write an answer like this? In Act 1, Scene 2 of Macbeth, the sergeant and Ross talk of Macbeth as a brave commander. तो आपको पहले sergeant के बारे में लिखना है कि उसने क्या कहा Macbeth की bravery के बारे में. उसके बाद आपको रॉस के बारे में लिखना है कि उसने क्या कहा मैकबेथ की बहादुरी के बारे में ओके एंड देन यू नीड टू टॉक अबाउट द लैंग्वेज डिस्क्रिप्शन एंड डनकन्स रेस्पॉन्सेस सो द सर्जेंट डिस्क्राइब्स हिम as brave Macbeth. See how I have used the keywords included in the answers. That's how you need to do that. And uses powerful imagery to emphasize his courage and prowess on the battlefield. Prowess matlab sahas, kabiliyat. Okay. Describing how he got the better of the traitor MacDonald, he says Macbeth unseamed from the knave to the chaps to depict his fearless and brutal combat. Key phrase. Please use them. What does Ross do? Ross describes Macbeth as, because he's सिर्फ 150 words का ही लिखना है maximum, as Bellona's bridegroom. तो आपने इसमें भी दिया keywords, इसमें भी दिया keywords, आपके 5 mark पक्के. That's the way to score good high marks in English literature. In any ICSE paper for that matter, but definitely in literature. Who began a dismal conflict and broke the enemy's lavish spirit to bring victory to Duncan's army. So that's how you talk about what Ross said about Macbeth. Now, how did Duncan react? Duncan, because इसमें हो जाएगा तो आपको लैंग्वेज के बारे में अलग से लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. ये लैंग्वेज से पता चल जाता है कि that very flowery kind of language has been used. Okay. And I have already spoken about how he uses powerful imagery. You know, powerful imagery क्या है? This is a powerful imagery. This is a very powerful imagery to call Macbeth as Bellona's bridegroom. Okay. Duncan responds in a positive manner to this generous description of Macbeth's valor by describing him as, oh, valiant cousin, worthy gentleman. This not only acknowledges, what does it do? One, it acknowledges Macbeth's bravery. It also establishes him as a noble and honorable figure. And the lavish titles, you know, वर्दी जेंटलमैन वगैरह वैलियंट कसिन वगैरह का उस तरह का जो टाइटल्स यूज करते हैं उससे मैकबेथ का स्टेचर बिकॉज रिमेंबर अभी तक आपकी मुलाकात मैकबेथ से नहीं हुई है उससे पहले ही मैकबेथ के बारे में इतना कुछ सुनने को मिल रहा है it elevates his stature in the eyes of both the other characters who are listening to Duncan and the audience, underlining his heroic image even before Macbeth has actually arrived on stage. पहले सीन में हमने विचिस से सुना दूसरे में हम डंकन से और बाकी लोगों से सुन रहे हैं, रॉस से और सार्जेंट से। सेकंड क्वेश्चन, व्हाट रीजंस डज मैकबेथ गिव फॉर नॉट किलिंग डंकन? Why does he go ahead despite the initial reservations? In your answer, you should incorporate the following details and answer within 100 to 150 words. Explore Macbeth's fears, mention his responsibilities, talk about his strongest impulse to go ahead. So initially, Macbeth hesitates to kill Duncan due to a combination of fears and a sense of moral responsibility. That is this the right thing for me to do? So he fears the consequences of such a violent act in terms of retribution in the afterlife. That is, after I am dead in my next life or after life, not next life, after life, I will be punished for something like this. Okay. His responsibilities as Duncan's commander weighs heavily on his mind because, after all, he's entrusted with the responsibility of taking care of Duncan's well being, right? As betraying his king would undermine the very order that he upholds and could unleash chaos in the natural world. Macbeth also recognizes Duncan's virtues as a king and worries about tarnishing his own reputation. So, अगर आप इस तरह का एक comprehensive answer दे देंगे, you will be fine. However, he goes ahead despite these initial reservations because his ambition, an ambition which has been fueled, which has been pushed by Lady Macbeth's persuasion to be Scotland's king, is very strong. The prospect of fulfilling the witch's prophecies and ascending to the throne of the king of Scotland, it becomes a very overpowering kind of temptation. But the final push comes from Lady Macbeth, who challenges his manhood. कि तुम मर्द हो क्या? And questions his resolve, appealing to his ambition and desire for the ornament of life, that is the crown. So this can be a perfect answer. With reference to Act 2 of the play, show how Lady Macbeth supports the over-imaginative Macbeth after the murder of Duncan, highlight the key differences in their personalities, answer in 200 to 250 words. Now, this has to be a slightly longish answer. Following the regicide, that is the murder of King Duncan, Macbeth is killed plagued by guilt, while Lady Macbeth remains focused on the practical aspects की पूरा evidence को कैसे remove करना है. How do we remove the evidence? Managing the post-murder situation. That is how, in Act 2 of the play, Lady Macbeth plays a crucial role in taking care of the over-imaginative Macbeth. What is he imagining about? That he has heard people speaking, right? Who claims that he heard a voice, sleep no more, Macbeth does murder sleep. She takes charge, urging him to wash the blood, calling the blood as this filthy witness. Please use as many key phrases and words as possible from his hand. See how I have woven it into the thing. उसको अलग से लगाने का जरूरत नहीं है. You weave it into the answer itself and ask him to replace the daggers. Lady Macbeth also shows her ruthless pragmatism. Pragmatism means, very practical approach. When she reassures Macbeth कि वो Macbeth को दिलासा को assure करती है कि डरने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, and attempting to, what we have done is not wrong. She criticizes his anxiety, ridiculing him, say, I shame to wear a heart so white. She takes charge, smears the daggers with blood, and planting them on the guards, her resolute demeanor meaning her whole attitude, serves. It is in contrast to Macbeth's internal conflict, which is only growing. Later on in the play, we see Lady Macbeth also suffering from guilt pangs, but right now, she's the person who is in charge. The key difference in their personalities lies in their response to guilt and moral consequences. In this scene, Lady Macbeth is depicted as unflinchingly ambitious and ruthless, willing to go to great lengths to achieve her desires. She's a manipulative comforter. How she manipulates Macbeth's emotions as she takes charge of controlling Macbeth's tense emotions. In contrast, Macbeth, he's also ambitious, but he's more vulnerable, susceptible to guilt and remorse, regret. Even in the throes of a major upheaval, she remembers to ensure, लास्ट में देखो, she says that हम दोनों को नाइट गॉन में होना चाहिए ताकि जो नॉक कर रहे हैं जब वो अंदर आए उनको लगे कि हम सो रहे थे, right? So she is very focused on the minute details of what should be on that fateful night. Okay. And Macbeth has a very different reaction. So you see, if you cover all the points, ये 10 मार्क मिल सकते हैं बंधु. 10 out of 10 you can score if you write a comprehensive answer. Macbeth has a different reaction. What does he say? That he wants a knocking to wake up Duncan long after he has murdered him. ओके, द फोर्थ क्वेश्चन ऑफ मैकबेथ, इसमें आपको चॉइस मिलेगा. व्हाट किंगली क्वालिटीज डिड डंकन पोजेस? कुड सम ऑफ हिज गुड क्वालिटी, दिस इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन, बी रिगार्डेड एज डिफेक्ट्स इन अ किंग? गिव रीजंस, आंसर इन 200 to 250 वर्ड्स. मेरे को एक्चुअली 200 to 250 वर्ड्स वाले 10 मार्क वाले क्वेश्चन ज्यादा अच्छा लगे. King Duncan in Shakespeare's Macbeth is depicted as possessing several kingly qualities, which includes fairness, kindness, and a genuine concern for the well-being of his subjects. Duncan is portrayed as a benevolent ruler who rewards loyalty and bravery. He wastes no time in promoting Macbeth as the Thane of Cawdor and rewards honored hostess, that is Lady Macbeth, with a diamond, जो कि Banquo उसको देता है Act 2 Scene 1 में, Macbeth को देता है कि आपकी बीवी के लिए है. His appreciation for Macbeth's valor in battle and the gracious way he receives and acknowledges his nobles demonstrates his appreciation for marital loyalty. ये सब तो अच्छी बातें हो गई, लेकिन while Duncan's personal qualities are admirable, some of them can also be regarded as defects in a king. His blind trust, you know, he blindly believes everyone, particularly Macbeth. Before that, the earlier Thane of Cawdor, that shows a potential flaw which makes him vulnerable and susceptible to betrayal and treachery. His trusting nature makes him vulnerable to flattery and deception. So एक जगह पे आप susceptible use कर सकते हैं, एक जगह पर vulnerable use कर सकते हैं. They're all synonyms. And deception and his failure to see through the facade of loyalty. You know, people saying that I am loyal, but they may not be loyal, just like Macbeth is not, leads to his murder. He also makes Malcolm his successor without realizing that अरे उसके वजह से उसको jealousy हो गई है, right? So he makes Malcolm also a potential threat. सो ये सब डनकन सोचता नहीं है. सो उसके अच्छी क्वालिटीज में ही उसका एक तरह से काफी सारा वीकनेस छुपा हुआ है. Also, Duncan's decision to stay at Macbeth's castle, it reflects what? It reflects lack of any strategic thinking. एक राजा को सोचना चाहिए, क्या मैं यहां पर 100% सुरक्षित हूं या नहीं. A more cautious ruler might have adopted a more prudent approach to ensure his own safety. His security guards बकवास लोग थे, वो पी के वहां पड़े रहे, राइट. Apart from Macbeth, Duncan also ignores potential threats like MacDonald's rebellion. This could also be interpreted as a lack of leadership acumen. Acumen मतलब जानकारी, understanding. Okay, now let's move to the Prism के question. The answer on thank you, ma'am. Why did the boy snatch Mrs. Jones' purse in the short story? Thank you, ma'am. What important life lesson did Mrs. Jones impart to him during this encounter? In your answer, you should incorporate the following details. That is, give a reason for the boy's action. Why did he steal? Why did he snatch? And describe the life lessons given by Mrs. Jones. Read it. I'll just read out the main key points. He's desperate because he wants to buy a pair of blue suede shoes. Mrs. Jones, what does she do? She takes him home. She does not report him to the police, to the authorities, and she imparts an important life lesson. What is that? She does not scold or punish him, but she shows compassion and empathy, understanding. She feeds him. She engages him in a conversation. Okay. And through her action, she teaches Roger about trust, about kindness, and the importance of making positive choices in life. And the encounter transforms Roger, right? Because he realizes that people here are willing to give him a second chance. ये नहीं कि एक बार ही गलती कर दी है उसको juvenile home में डाल दिया है, ये नहीं किया. She gives him a second chance in life, and the story highlights themes of compassion, redemption, and the potential for positive change, even if the circumstances are not very easy. Circumstances are not easy for Roger. They are not very great for Mrs. Jones either, right? But that's the choice you make. The second 5 mark question, which is from advice to youth, cite two instances. Now, ये मैं बोल रहा था शुरू में. Now, अगर आप में से कुछ लोग होंगे इस तरह का वर्ड का मतलब ही नहीं मालूम होगा. It means something which is, almost it's a combination of satirical wit and stuff like that. इसलिए बोल रहा हूं कि दे एक्सपेक्ट यू टू यूज गुड वोकैबुलरी. यहां पे देखो, ओवर्ट एंड कोवर्ट. ओवर्ट इज समथिंग विच इज अंडरस्टैंडेबल इजली. कोवर्ट मीन समथिंग विच इज काइंड ऑफ हिडन. ओके. इन एडवाइस टू यूथ, अगर आपको ये वर्ड्स मीनिंग नहीं मालूम होंगे तो देन यू विल स्ट्रगल. आपको समझ में नहीं आएगा इसको लिखना क्या है. 5 मार्क्स सीधे गोल. In advice to youth, Mark Twain gives evidence of his puckish humor by advising young people to always obey your parents when they are present. Thus, he is slightly suggesting that obedience is only necessary in the physical presence, only when the parents are actually physically present. Okay, जब वो नहीं हो, you can do as you please. So, इसका मतलब क्या है? Twain's overt intent is to satirize conventional moral advice given to the youth. कि जिस तरह का एडवाइस यूथ को दिया जाता है उसको सैटराइज करने की कोशिश है. लेकिन covertly what he's doing is he's talking about कि conditional obedience is how absurd it is. It is a very absurd kind of thing. Then, second instance, he says, be respectful to your superiors if you have any, also to strangers and sometimes to others. Here, the overt intention is to mock the societal expectation that सबको respect दिखाने की जरूरत है. But the covert intent in actually both the instances is to prompt critical thinking about conventional wisdom, encouraging readers to question established norms and think independently. So you need to divide it into overt and covert while giving the two instances. इसीलिए understanding, there are some people out here जो कि story का अभी 1 महीना 2 महीने पहले भी समरी बढ़ाते हैं. अगर आप समझते हैं, and this is applicable to class 9, 10, 11 and 12, if you think even at this stage for scoring good marks in literature, if you think story ka summary पढ़ के you can काम चलाओ, then all I would say is may God be with you, good luck to you. नहीं होगा काम, नहीं होगा काम unless you have a deep understanding, especially when it comes to literature. Grammatizator. How does the short story, The Great Automatic Grammatizator, explore the theme of the impact of technology on creativity and literature? Because it takes a lot of effort writing all these answers. The Great Automatic Grammatizator by Roald Dahl explores the theme of the impact of technology. So all these words are important. You need to use these kind of words, the impact of technology on creativity and literature. In the story, the protagonist, Adolf Knife, he's an aspiring but struggling writer who has become disillusioned because uske kitne sare 566. Okay, 566 articles had been rejected by the different publishers. He's frustrated because he thinks he's good. उसको लगता है कि मैं अच्छा हूं, लेकिन ये लोग बेवकूफ है जिन्होंने मेरे आर्टिकल्स को रिजेक्ट किया. So he conceives the idea of the Great Automatic Grammatizator, a machine designed to generate literature at an unprecedented speed and volume. Mr. Bolan, head of the firm of electrical engineers, is his partner in that particular enterprise. And the story, what does it explore? It explores how technology, represented by the grammatizator, can mechanize and commodify. It makes it into a commodity. Instead of being a creative pursuit, it becomes a commodity. Okay, so commodification is a good word to use. The creative process. So the creative process का एक commodity बना के छोड़ दिया है. It raises questions about the dehumanizing effects of automation on the art of creative storytelling. I want you to, if you read it a couple of times, you will get used to using these kind of words. And if you have gone through my notes and question and answers, you know what exactly I'm talking about. Dahl's narrative suggests that the pursuit of efficiency and profit in literature as facilitated by technology will end up sacrificing the creativity of individual authors. The story also reflects concerns about the homogenization of literature and the loss of diversity in storytelling when reduced to a formulaic, formula. Formula se word aata hai, formulaic automated process, as the machine is only fed with prototypes of storyline, because it's, this kind of a story, this kind of characters, this kind of emotion, aisa dalo karke. So hence in the story, Roald Dahl is cautioning the reader against, see, आपसे कभी भी author का नाम पूछा नहीं जाएगा, बट अगर आप अपने आंसर में ऑथर का नाम मेंशन करेंगे तो इट विल शो ए डीपर अवेयरनेस, ओके, यू नो हु हैज रिटन इट. ऐसा नहीं कि मेरे को मालूम ही नहीं, ऑथर का नाम भी मैं भूल गया, काइंड ऑफ थिंग. Dahl is cautioning the reader against over-reliance on technology in creative endeavors, creative pursuits, emphasizing the role of human imagination in literary arts. He himself declares that he would much rather prefer that his children starve, the last page of the grammatizator, than signing up with the grammatizator. So it is a satirical commentary on the potential pitfalls of technological advancements in the realm, in the world of creativity and literature. इस तरह का एक वेल राउंडेड आंसर आपको लिखने की जरूरत है. मैं तो कहूंगा थोड़े और कीवर्ड्स का इस्तेमाल करो, मैंने शायद इसमें ज्यादा कीवर्ड्स का इस्तेमाल नहीं किया है. trace the journey of Jack and his changing relationship with his mother through his association with Lao in the short story The Paper Menagerie. How does it finally become the agent that initiates Jack's homecoming? Write your answer in 200 to 250 words. The paper tiger Lao is created by Jack's mother during his childhood to make him acquainted with his Chinese heritage background and roots. But as he grows older, he's embarrassed by the cultural differences because he's in the USA. He feels, he's not, does not feel a sense of belonging, right? It sets him apart from his peers. So Lao now represents Jack's disowned heritage and he's relegated to the attic. He's thrown into the attic. I could have written thrown into the attic, but relegated gives you it gives you a sense of being outcast because that's precisely what Jack does. The turning point comes many years later when Jack happens to chance upon a letter from his mother written on the paper tiger. As he holds Lao, it's a symbolic act of reconciliation. He has once again come together with his childhood friend. The tiger's movements mirroring his mother's love and longing because it's like the mother's spirit is in that letter, in that paper tiger, evoke a profound sense of nostalgia. This initiates Jack's homecoming as he recognizes the value of his cultural heritage and the unconditional love symbolized by the paper menagerie. The paper tiger becomes a catalyst. Please use these kind of words. These are important. It becomes a catalyst for Jack's reconciliation. Very important word. Okay, please use this word with his identity and an emotional reminder of the importance of family and cultural ties. So the paper tiger becomes a catalyst for Jack's self-reflection and he also heals. He also becomes an improved human being. Okay, because as he reads the letter written by his mother, late mother, it shows how much she suffered, her silent suffering, and how much she loved. Unrequited means it was not kind of reciprocated by her son. Poor thing. As he gets to hear what her mother wrote, Jack confronts his own prejudice and racism because he thinks himself as more American than Chinese, and therefore he's prejudiced against his own mother. He understands the pain that he inflicted on the woman who loved him the most. So, in that sense, the paper tiger is like a symbol, an extension of Jack. It is a neglected artifact, but now it becomes a cherished symbol. It becomes a bridge that takes Jack back to his mother. Of course, not physically because she's dead, but in spirit. So in the future, in Jack's world, there would be more understanding of his mother. There would be more acceptance of his mother's life and philosophy and not feel alienated. I love this story. Even now, when I'm saying all this, I get goosebumps. Let's move to the Rhapsody section. How does Tagore depict the fleeting nature of youth and beauty through the changing seasons in his poem? You have to talk about Vasadatta's beauty and the subsequent change in her physical condition, use of nature imagery. Rabindranath Tagore, in his poem Abhisara, The Tryst, captures the fleeting nature of youth and beauty through the lens of changing seasons, because you have seen earlier it's the month of August, then it's in the month of April. Vasadatta, the dancing girl, you can put that also within quotes, is once vibrant and blooming and drunk with the wine of her youth, but she gradually succumbs to the passage of time. The woman, I realize that you will be able to use more keywords in the 5 mark question than in the 10 mark, but both में use करने का कोशिश जरूर कीजिए. The woman who was once starred with jewels now is struck with the black pestilence, her body spotted with sores of smallpox, and has been driven away from the town. Tagore employs vivid nature imagery to emphasize the transient. Transient means temporary nature of youth and beauty. Beauty and youth are not permanent, right? The changing seasons serve as an effective metaphor reflecting the cyclical nature of life, just as nature also changes its season, summer to monsoon to autumn to winter to spring, right? Vasadatta's beauty also undergoes a metamorphosis, undergoes a deep change. The juxtaposition of her beauty, the contrast between her beauty against the changing season, that's what creates an impact. That's the kind of style of poetry that Rabindranath Tagore has used. It reminds the reader, it reminds you and me of the inevitability of change, that बदलाव जरूरी है, बदलाव हमेशा होगा, and the impermanence that if you are at a particular age right now, You will not be like that forever. If you look like this now, you will not look like this forever. You will change. Your physical looks will change. You will also change and mature as a person, right? All of us do that. What images does the poet use in Sonnet 116 to convey his perception of love? Why are these images this thing? Please go through the question. In Sonnet 116, William Shakespeare employs many powerful images to convey his perception of enduring love. He describes love as an ever fixed mark and a star to every wandering bark. What do these lines convey? They are images of constancy, of something permanent, right? And they also convey guidance because they are a star to every wandering ship. They evoke a sense of stability and direction. It conveys the perception of love as a constant beacon. कि love permanent है, steadfast है. इसमें बदलाव नहीं होगा. जो बदलाव हो गया, वो प्यार नहीं है. Right? It offers comfort and that makes Sonnet 116 a timeless testament. इस phrase को आप इस्तेमाल अपने answers में जरूर कीजिए. Okay, this one. The metaphor of love as a time's fool, again key phrase, and the reference to the rosy lips and cheeks emphasize the transient nature of physical beauty and the inevitable passage of time. Pretty similar to Abhisara. These images are effective because they transcend the superficial aspects of love, focusing on its enduring and steadfast qualities. The metaphor of the marriage of true minds and the idea that love is not shaken by tempests. Tempest means storms. They emphasize the strength of genuine love. And the images evoke a sense of timelessness, which is why after so many years also this sonnet 116 of Shakespeare is very relatable. The 200 250 words ka 10 mark ka question. This one from Strange Meeting. How does Wilfred Owen challenge the traditional ideals of heroism and valor in the poem? Okay. Do wars create? Now, इसमें एक opinion भी पूछा है आपसे. Do you think war create more problems than they solve? Okay, so this is the second part. You have to write your own opinion. In Wilfred Owen's poem, the traditional ideals of heroism and valor in war are challenged by the poet rejecting the glorification of war. This is an anti-war poem. By presenting a haunting dialogue between a soldier and an enemy he killed on the battlefield, Owen projects the profound psychological impact on soldiers कि उसकी वजह से सैनिकों पर किस तरह का असर होता है psychologically, emotionally. That's what he's talking about. The setting is also significant as a meeting in a profound dull tunnel. It's not on the battlefield, it's in a dull tunnel. And उससे युद्ध की बहादुरी के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं चलता, वहां पे सब मरे पड़े हुए हैं, राइट? द पोएम हाइलाइट्स द फ्यूटिलिटी ऑफ हेट्रेड, कि किसी से घृणा करने से कोई फायदा नहीं है. देयर इज नो पॉइंट हेटिंग एनीवन एल्स. एंड ओवन्स एंटी वॉर सेंटिमेंट, दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट, प्लीज यूज दिस काइंड ऑफ वर्ड्स, is evident as he exposes the dehumanizing effects of battle, emphasizing the shared humanity of soldiers on opposing sides. He's a human being, he's a human being. They're representing opposite sides. And that makes it extremely dehumanizing. They get reduced to kind of killing another human being, which is not a very nice thing to do. War literature, generally what it does is it glorifies death of a soldier on the battlefield. But Owen is poem mein, he's referring to them as encumbered sleepers who groan, and he's talking about their immense suffering, right? So there is pessimism that the wars would continue even though there is no resolution through violence. While it can be argued that wars could settle, now the second part of the question, now this is an opinion. While it can be argued that wars could settle immediate issues, war hota hai, ye territory pe humko occupation करना है, हो गया, शॉर्ट टर्म मेजर हो जाता है. लेकिन लॉन्ग टर्म में वार का कोई भी पॉजिटिव फायदा नहीं होता है. They result in devastating loss of life, economic strain because the countries have to spend a lot, and the displacement of communities, when people get uprooted from their homeland. So they leave behind scarred countries, countries which find it difficult to come to terms with the suffering. And there's a lot of psychological trauma. They lead to more inequalities, and even after the war is over, often continue. War हो जाता है लेकिन smaller conflicts होते रहते हैं. बड़ा war खत्म हो जाता है लेकिन छोटे छोटे conflicts होते रहते हैं. So instead of that, if we have dialogue and diplomacy, as an option, that would probably work much better to resolve conflicts. The last one, Death of a Naturalist. Is it an exploration of the poet's growth from childhood to adolescence? So Death of a Naturalist by Seamus Heaney is a poignant exploration of the. So आपने देखा होगा कि मैंने हर आंसर में पोएट का या ऑथर का नाम जरूर इंक्लूड किया है. Please do that irrespective of whether it is there in the question or not. I think only in the strange meeting they have used the name of the poet. Death of a Naturalist by Seamus Heaney is a poignant exploration of the poet's journey from childhood innocence to the awareness and complexities of adolescence. The poem reflects his transition through the speaker's exploration of the flat stamp. Okay, that's where he sees all the frogs spawn and later on the angry frogs. So in the first part, what has happened in the first part? When he was a child, Heaney depicts a vivid and innocent childhood world filled with the wonders of nature. The speaker is fascinated by the sensory experiences of nature, from the warm, thick slobber of frog spawn to the jellied specks that he would fill in jam bottles that he would take to school, etc. This reflects the child's curiosity and the uninhibited fascination. There is, he's very excited and fascinated by the natural world, and that conveys the simplicity and the wonder of childhood, not youth, childhood. यहाँ पे आप childhood लिखेंगे is would be better, not youth. However, the poem takes a dramatic turn in the second part as the speaker's perception of the world around him evolves with the onset of adolescence. The once innocent exploration of the same nature, where the frogs were the object of fascination, now he's repulsed and he's fearful, he's apprehensive, he's revolted, right, by the same scene. This shift from fascination to apprehension of vengeance, because उसको लगता है कि ये बदला लेने के लिए आ रहे हैं, right, by the great slime kings, mirrors the speaker's growing awareness of the harsh realities of life. So you see how I have included words like vengeance, which is there in the poem, great slime kings, which is in the poem. So if you use that and weave it into your answer, it will make your answer that much better. The examiner will be happy. The poem thus becomes a metaphor for the loss of childhood innocence and the inevitable confrontation with the more complex aspects of the world during adolescence. The poem beautifully captures the experience of growing up, where the initial wonder of the world is tempered. Tempered means come by the harsher realities of life. So if you see the kind of vocabulary I have used, the way I have used all the key words and key phrases, that is something which is absolutely important for you in order to get marks. So read the text multiple number of times. Multiple number of times. Okay. Before the exam, definitely go through the entire text again. Notes, you should know each and every line, and you should know some of these kind of key phrases in each and every poem and story and Macbeth कि कहाँ वो यूज करना है ताकि आप उसका इस्तेमाल कर सके, ताकि आपके आंसर में थोड़ा सा वजन आए. Okay, I hope this video was of use to you. Thank you very much. Question paper I will put on our WhatsApp group. It's called Study with Sudhir. Okay, Tata. WhatsApp channel. Okay, Tata. Bye bye.